Hey there, Donald Henderson here again. This video is a very serious video. Um, this is probably one that you may want to rewind several times because I've got a lot of information in it. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I might give some examples. But basically what I'm going to talk about today is your safety in many realms. um, Basically, the title of this, do you feel safe? In a lot of circumstances. Well, what I'm going to talk about is some things that'll help you with your feeling of safety and also how to be safe in different situations, how you may learn about protecting yourself better, things like that. So let's get started. Disclaimer. First of all, this is just a brief overview and it's from my experience. I could probably make an hour-long class, maybe an all-day class out of this if I put enough research into it. But I'm just trying to share things because I know with what's going on in the world today, lots going on. People are confused, people are afraid, and just trying to help out in that regard. Okay, disclaimer. I am not a martial arts instructor, nor am I a weapons instructor, so don't ask me about doing any training. I don't do that. I've been exposed to both and other things. So I don't teach anyone. I'm just going to reference it. So if you want to go down that path, you can pursue that. What I want to share with you today are things from my life experience, from the training I've received, to just basically being aware of how things work in the world, observing human behavior. If you want to learn more about some of these topics, you could probably find several people on YouTube. There's books on it. Former military people will talk about and address these issues. But I'm just going to do an overview here, and hopefully you get something out of it. Maybe take action to do something to make sure you're safer or you're not in bad situations. I know it's kind of vague, but what I'm doing is I just want to help out because I know a lot of people are frightened and afraid, and life is too valuable to be afraid of everything. So here we go. I'm also probably going to trigger a lot of feelings in people, and not everybody's going to react in the same way. Basically, I might increase the fear a little bit because there's things I'm going to tell you that you weren't aware of. I might help you worry a little bit less. I may make it to where you may think that, I wish I knew this before. Had I known that, maybe my friend would still be here. Those kind of things. So I just want you to be aware you may have different kind of feelings, and it's okay regardless of what they are. And I hope that you watch to the end regardless of your reaction. Excuse me. Now, what I'm going to talk about, even though some of the trainings I talk about have been in the past gender specific, but these kind of skills and knowledge are not gender specific. Let's back up a little bit. Let me back up a little bit. What I mean by that is let's face it, men and women are different, okay? On average, men are bigger and stronger than women. Some of the trainings I'm going to talk about are for women, but guys, these are things that you can use too to protect yourself. Just because you're one gender or the other doesn't mean like, well, I can't do that, only girls do that. Or women say like, well, I'm not big enough to do that. Trust me, there are things a small woman can do that's very effective. How do I know that? I'm married to one who's very good at it. All right, so let's get down here. Let's get started. My first topic, and I've learned this from just observing how people get into trouble, and that is never be alone. If you can, have someone with you at all times. And I'm not talking about a bodyguard. I'm just talking about their strength in numbers, safety in numbers. I'll give you an example. I was a teller and the computer guy at a credit union years ago. And since the nature of my work, I would stay late at night. most of the male workers were gone by 5 o'clock, and the tellers would be there at closing, counting up the money and putting it away and things like that. So I was charged by the president of the credit union, say, Don, you're here. Can you walk people out, or walk the ladies out, how they used to say it back then. And I thought to myself, I'm not that big of a guy. I'm not a bouncer. But what I learned is just having a male with a female, having having more than one person there, the chances of being mugged, accosted, or raped go down significantly just by the presence of having another person there, or a male. Don't be alone. Back in the days I used to ski, I remember these guys would go backcountry skiing, and what that means, if you're not familiar with skiing, you're going down the backside of the mountain where there's no ski patrol, there are no lifts. I mean, you are on your own. If you fall in a crevasse or fall off the side of a cliff, no one's going to know, right? And they're trained. A lot of them are well trained. They have all the equipment. They have the beepers, the signal producers, whatever, to find them. But what I've noticed is the people that usually end up hurt and or dead doing things like that, like jogging at night or hiking by themselves, those are the ones that were alone. People that usually have a partner or go as a group, there's more likely probability that you're going to be okay. So if you get hurt, twist your ankle, whatever, someone's there who can help carry you out of the canyon, call for help, whatever. Back in the old days, I mean, we had cell phones, but they didn't work in the backcountry. Nowadays, you can go out any place on the earth and your cell phone works. But that's another thing. Always keep your cell phone on you, because if something happens, it's not a gun. It's not going to protect you that way, but you can call for help. Okay, so don't be alone. Next topic. Don't be a victim. And what I mean by that, act like a victim. Look at your surroundings. Is there places to where bad things can be, like, someone watching you, or being on the platform for a subway. Okay, you may be in a rush, but someone may accidentally or intentionally, if you're right on the edge of that platform, may push you over onto the tracks. I mean, we've heard that a lot in New York subways. A lot of people getting hurt or killed because they were nudged or pushed onto the tracks. So be aware of where you are. It's the term is situational awareness. Look around. I don't want to make anyone paranoid, okay? I just want you to be aware where you are, what's going on. Use all your senses, use your intuition. If your gut tells you something's not right, 99.9% of the time, it's right. There's something there. It's some subconscious sensation you're having with your senses that's telling you something's out of place. Be aware of that. Look around. Anything that would substantiate that feeling of there's something not right here. Another thing, I see, especially women, I see them putting on the headsets or whatever, listen to their music, watching videos, people crossing the street, texting or whatever. You are not aware of what's going on around you. That is victim behavior. You want to have all of your senses available to you when you're out, especially in public. Depending on the area you're in, there might be a lot of people. There's when I was in Italy, there was a high incidence of purse snatching and pickpocketing. Be aware. I mean, there are clues. People will give you clues that they are not, there for the same purpose you are. They may be there looking for trouble. So it's the whole concept of predator versus prey. Predators, whatever kind of crime it is, are looking for targets. They're looking for people who are unaware of what's going on. You can sneak up on them, or they have valuables hanging off their arms that you can grab quickly. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the predator mentality. So don't think like prey. Think what you could be as prey, but get away from acting like prey. And think like a predator. What could possibly happen? What would they be doing around me or to me? And these are things after you practice it for a while, it becomes second nature. It's not like you're, look side eyeing everybody and looking over your shoulder and the bit. You start seeing certain behavior patterns that may tip you off that that's someone you don't want to be close to. Next concept. Where do you learn things about how to defend yourself? Okay, it depends where you are. I mean, big cities have more things available than out in the country, but there are resources available even if you live rurally, like I do. I mean, look at like different self-defense or karate or martial art studios, the dojos, the martial arts clubs, boxing clubs, things like that. YMCA, they will have training now and then on self-defense, especially for women. And again, guys, even though it's for women, if you're going with your girlfriend or your wife to learn, pay attention, because some of the things she's going to learn you can use as well. The bottom line when you're defending yourself is do the most damage so that you can get the heck out of there, get away from there. You don't have to punch someone in the face with full power to stop them from going after you. A little quick whip of a finger in the eye, even a light touch to the groin. Guys, you know this? There's been times where something accidentally hits you where the jewels are and you're on your knees, right? Okay, so don't be a hero. Don't think you're Superman. You got to use all your strength to fight someone off, and then you have no energy left to run. You got to get out of there. So anyhow, and what I would recommend, if you can find it, look for places that teach self-defense, more street fighting techniques, and less into competition. I mean, when you go to like a karate studio, they have, different levels of belts because you mastered certain skills, things, and you go to competitions, win awards and points. That's all great. But in the real world, you want to disable someone who's coming after you and get the heck out. You're not there to show off. Yeah, I'll say more about that in a minute. So anyhow, there's things you learn from other activities as well. Like for instance, I was trained as a lifeguard for the YMCA. And I was really kind of excited about that because I thought, ooh, lifeguard, that's kind of a cool gig. What I learned is, when people are drowning or think they're drowning, they're not real, at the moment, full of gratitude. Oh, thank you, Mr. Lifeguard, you're saving me. No, they're going to do things that might damage you. And that's one of the things we were taught, is that the instinct, a reaction to survive, to not drown, is so strong, the adrenaline gets going, and they may end up drowning you as the rescuer. They may push you to the bottom of the pool. They may wrap their arms and legs around you where you can't swim, you can't breathe, they're choking you. And some of the things they taught us are things that can be used on land for self-defense. And one is if they got their arms around you to try to, push down on you so they can get up and get some air, you got to get out of there, because if you don't, you're going to be the victim. So they taught us your thumb right up around here. I think that's about it. It was years ago. But anyhow, you press up in there on both arms, they'll release because that hurts. There's a nerve right there. You can use that for self-defense as well. Use everything you've got. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Okay, again, self-defense techniques, whether it is martial arts, boxing, weapons of any kind, it's not gender specific. The only thing gender specific besides anatomy is men, on average, are bigger and stronger than women. Okay? Size does matter. However, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the hair, that's one of the reasons I don't have any, can all be used on both men and women to protect yourself. If you quickly blind somebody, whether you throw sand in their face or you take something and you poke them in the eye or you cup the ears real quick to where you can damage or pop the eardrums, the throat, there's a lot of little bones there that will break easily, and it doesn't take a lot of effort. Same thing with joints. If you can get their arm over your shoulder and pull it down, and you have to be fast, not strong, fast, because joints are so fragile. You could do it in a way to where it either hurts it or you can actually break someone's elbow very easily. Same thing with a knee. Go in sideways with a kick, those tendons will pop. But the techniques themselves, they are not gender specific. So guys, if you're going to women's self-defense, take notes. You may need to use those techniques too. What else we got here? Okay, we got that. Oh, here's another thing. My wife and I and her son years ago went to a dojo, and that's what I talked about before, where you're learning how to disable your opponent quickly so you could get the heck out, okay? And some of the things they taught us are quite scary, because the things that they taught you weren't, like I said, not for competition, even though they had their own belt system. A lot of the local cops were also attendees there as well, because they wanted to learn street fighting and how to protect themselves, and also knew what a street fighter was going to try to do to them. Excuse me, got a little allergy thing going with my nose. There are no rules in street fighting, okay? And the reason why I say that, guys, if you got a black belt, how many Dans are there? But anyhow, there's graduations and black belts as well. I don't really care. The thing is that learning how to protect yourself regardless of what it takes, that's the thing I want to get to. There's no rules. Going back to that dojo, sorry, I got sidetracked. I remember my class was over with. I was by the front counter, right by the exit. And my wife was in a women's kickboxing class. And that day they were doing grappling. And if you don't know what grappling is, look it up. It's basically floor work. She came out, finally. I said, man, are they still in classes? Yeah, sometimes they run over. She came out. She was red as a Coke can, and which is kind of funny because she's quite brown. And sweating like she just came out of a pool. She was soaking wet. She had rug burns on her elbows and knees, breathing like she just came out of a race. She was like in anaerobic mode. And just, wow, her hair was messed up the whole bit. And I went like, wow, what happened to you? Well, when she finally caught her breath long enough to where she could answer, she just said, I won. I want that to sink in. I won. Her opponent was a woman that was much taller than her, much bigger than her. Excuse me. And in grappling, it's kind of like wrestling. You're trying to pin your opponent down. And so my little wife was put up against this larger woman, and my wife is a street fighter. And when they finished, they got, tapped out. The other woman says, like, that's not fair. And my wife said, there are no rules in street fighting. And which is true. If someone's coming to get you and they know some things that, you don't learn in a dojo, you're at a disadvantage. So what happens? You do whatever you can. And that means, guys, we weren't taught to do that, especially if you're in boxing. If you remember, Mike Tyson and Vander Holyfield back in 1997. Tyson bit off part of Holyfield's ear when they were boxing, right? That's not in the rules. That's against the rules. But as a street fighter, and if pain is pain, man, if you can cause your opponent pain so they'll let go of you, I don't care what you're biting. If you can get your teeth in it, our jaws are pretty strong. And just like the example with Holyfield, he lost part of his ear, you know? And that's what you need. You need anything you can. Punching in the groin, kicking in the groin, blinding them with pepper spray, screaming, biting, um, poking in the eye, slapping, whatever it takes. Get out of there. But all this stuff I'm telling you about, regardless of what it is, you need to practice this stuff. This stuff you're not going to see like in a kung fu movie or on a cartoon and go, oh, that sounds good, I'll remember it. When you're in a situation and that adrenaline is going maximum in you, that's why they call fight or flight. You're either going to run and you know what, your pants, or you're going to stand your ground and take care of business. But when you have all that adrenaline going, you're not thinking anymore. You're just reacting. You need to teach your brain to have that in there so you can react. One more thing about that. When you do practice it and you've been doing it for years, it's kind of a scary thing. Like in a Terminator movie or in Tony Stark, he's in the suit and all these gauges are going up and down, or the Terminator is looking at an opponent and they got the gauges, very computer-like. It's analyzing what's going on. Your brain does the same thing, but it does it in a moment, a microsecond. And I don't know. It's happened to me a few times when I've been threatened, and you are very focused. You're very focused in your exits. You're very focused in what you're going to do. You size up the person. You already have everything in mind what you're going to do to try to disable that guy if he's coming towards you, okay? The adrenaline gets going. It's kind of scary because you realize that, for me at least, if you engage, you're both going to jail, okay? That's a fact, okay? Whether you win, lose, or draw, you're going to jail. And so that comes from practice, from years of practice, being aware, sizing up situations. Like I said, when you're in a new area, you're in a restaurant, look around, see where your exits are, scope out some of the people. Is there anyone that kind of shady, screaming, acting out, unusually? Those kind of things. You do that as soon as you sit down. But when you feel threatened, all that processing happens really fast. And that is kind of scary because you know what you're capable of. And ladies, let me tell you, you're capable of a lot more than you think at this moment. Seriously, everybody's capable of doing this. But on the other hand, what happens when you do that, there's a sense of calm. I don't know if it's from the martial art training or what, but there's a calm because you get very focused. You get very predator-like. And fortunately, I tell you, I've never had to use any of that stuff, but I've been threatened. I've been in a situation to where I try to talk my way out of it so I wouldn't have to use anything. But practice, practice, practice. Same thing with weapons. If you go on the range, you learn how to use a pistol or a rifle, or in some instances, like the martial arts that I went with my wife, we were taught how to use knives and things like that, how to take a knife away from somebody, take a gun away from somebody. We were using swords. It was one of their classes was very old Japanese style. That's what my stepson was into. But anyhow, you can learn that. You just have to find the right place to do it. All right, I talked enough about that. What's the next one here? Okay, next topic. Now you might see this in some of the kung fu movies, some of the martial art movies, but generally a lot of things they do is very fantasy, climbing up walls and doing that kind of stuff. But other ones are more realistic in that anything can be a weapon, okay? Anything. like I've said before, you could be in the kitchen and it is weapon rich, right? You got knives, you got other utensils, barbecue stuff, hot grease, hot water, um, even towels. Most people don't think about it, but guys do, because we were in gym in the locker room. You would get your towel and roll it up and snap it. You can get good at that, and you can use it as a whip. You can use it to disable somebody who's coming after you. And also you could use it as a way to choke them out, so you get them on the floor. A lot of things. Yeah, most people don't have swords in their house. Some people are collectors. But the thing is that think of anything being like a sword or a baseball bat. Some people have baseball bats behind their front door. You can have a pool cue. You can use that as a weapon. What else? Broomstick, a broom. It's light and it moves fast. You can poke with it. You can swing with it. Anything you can get your hands on can be a weapon. I remember back 9/11 when we had the whole thing about terrorism and taking down airplanes and the like. Every time I got an airplane, I looked around to see what I could use as a weapon. I could pull my belt off. The belt buckle is a very heavy part of the belt, and if you hit someone in the side of the head with that, they're going down. The other end that's soft, you can use it as a whip. You can get them in the eyes. You can get them in the ears and the throat. You could buckle it up. You could use it and cinch it up. You can grab someone's neck with it. Things you can do. Women, you have your keys in your purse. You have other things in your purse. You may have mace, whatever. A pen. Pen in your pocket. Your keys in your pocket. Your shoes. You could take your shoe off and bang someone upside the head with it. Everything is a weapon that you can get your hands on. Like I got a can of soda here. If it's unopened, even if it's full and it's opened, it's heavy. It's heavy. You can hit someone with it. You can throw it at them. It's like right now I'm in front of my laptop here, and if someone busted through the door over here, I could take the power cord from that and use that as a weapon in so many different ways. The thing is, like I said before, there's no rules in street fighting. Do not hesitate. If there's something you can do to hurt someone who's coming after you, do it, and do it quickly. Don't hesitate. It's all about timing and speed, not strength. Strength, if you're wrestling, yeah, but if you can get them before they get you, you have a better chance of survival and getting out of there. So yeah, different examples of weapons. Even your key. If you're in the office, you work in a cubicle, rip that keyboard out of the computer and hit them with it. You can do any of those things. So again, there's no rules, street fighting. Let's see, here's another section here. Okay, we talked about how it's scary how your mind will start reacting automatically. Okay, so here's another thing. This has not anything to do with someone who's attacking you, okay? This is about basically being prepared for anything that's man-made or non-man-made, an earthquake, severe weather, power outages, whatever you can think of. There's other things you can do to protect yourself and also be able to weather a storm, literally. There are different organizations like Neighborhood Watch. I'm not even sure if they still do anything, but you can join organizations in your town, your community, to where you kind of look out for each other. They will have different trainings, survival type trainings, talk about things about getting canned goods, dried goods, things that you don't need refrigeration for, because if during a storm or an earthquake or a man-made disaster, you may not have power. They will have things like in different Emergency preparedness groups, they'll teach you about how to use radios. You get a radio so that you can communicate back and forth. I don't know about you, but I've lived in many places to where when the power goes out, the internet goes out, and cell phone usually gets overwhelmed and it goes out as well. So look for these kind of emergency preparedness groups. Like I said, YMCA may have someone come in, a guest speaker, talk about it. You know, during COVID, we ran out of toilet paper. Remember that? Paper products disappeared. It's not just toilet paper you're going to need, okay? If for whatever reason the grocery stores are empty, or because power outage things are spoiling, you need to figure out ways of heating your house or heating your home. Propane heaters, propane generators for backup power. Think about possibly getting solar on your house, solar batteries, so that you can store that electricity so you can use it at night. What else? These prepper kind of groups, they also have things about, you know, learning how to use weapons properly. If you don't have a range where they do training close by, some of those groups can help you out. Let's see here, we got power, we got water. Yeah, you need water. Now remember that, we're going to store some extra water in those big 5-gallon jugs. Find some place in your home where you can store those safely. Get some extra water, not only for drinking and cooking. That's it, cooking. That's another thing for the propane. You may want to have like a Coleman stove or something where you can hook the propane into and you can cook outside, because you may not have any natural gas in your house, or if it's all electrical. If your power goes out, you ain't cooking nothing. Microwave ain't gonna work. Refrigerator ain't gonna work. Things like that. You may want to get an extra freezer for like your garage or your shed, to where you can freeze extra things. Even though the power goes out, if you have a decent freezer and keep it closed, it could store food for quite some time. But you also want freeze-dried things. They have, you can get it like at Costco. They have these boxes that are full of individual packets of food. It's freeze-dried, you add water, you can cook it. Other things you want are like canned meat, because it won't spoil until you open it up. It doesn't require refrigeration. You need protein. You need to have some protein if nothing else is available. What else? Oh, medication. Learn first aid. Have extra medication on hand, because if the power goes out for long periods of time, you know, if something really bad happens, if you have something you need every day, you know, blood pressure, heart medicine, things like that, make sure you get extra. Store it up. Store up your food. So let's see here. That's it. Yeah, find some places, some groups that practice and train these things. The radio, again, something other than AM, FM. Get the manual crank radios, if you know what I'm talking about. Requires no electricity. I don't know how it works, but by cranking it up, you give it enough electricity so a radio can receive emergency broadcasts, things like that. The handheld radios are basically, you know, two-way radio, so you can communicate with other people in your neighborhood. Let's see what else we got. Last thing. You're probably tired of listening to me now. Intuition, situational awareness. Avoid crowds. If you are going through an area, and this is usually an urban area, not rural, but if you see protesters, if you see people marching or running down the street, get the heck out of there. Don't go in there to figure out what's going on. That's usually a sign that something bad's going on. Crowds and groupthink, you know, if you aren't one of them, they may hurt you, okay? If you hear noises like popping, and if you're not familiar with guns, even large guns don't sound like the Dirty Harry movies. They sound like firecrackers, little firecrackers. Just pop, 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 pop. Be aware of that. If you hear that, go the opposite direction. Booms like a bomb went off, or what else? Someone's banging on the door. You need to get away from that as fast as you can. If you see something that doesn't look good, look right, leave ASAP as soon as possible. If there are fires, like when I was a kid, I lived through the Watts riots, if you look that up in the history books, and there was constantly up and down the main street, there was fire, police. I mean, it was, as a little kid, it scared the heck out of me because it's what's going on. It's like the end of the world. Instead of going towards where those sirens are, going towards where those flashing lights are, go the other direction. Trust me, it's, you want your safety. You want to get away from where there's bad things happening. Let's see here. I talked about like train platforms. Stay away from the edge. Stay away from the edge of anything. What else? I guess that's about it. Anyhow, I did this as kind of a public service announcement. I didn't go into deep how-tos on anything, but I want you to be aware of what's going on. And maybe by practicing some of these things, your awareness, situational awareness, prepping, storing some food and water supplies, learning some martial arts, learning how to protect yourself, learning weapons, whatever. It's also a mindset thing with learning martial arts. There's discipline to it. That'll help with the fear a lot, especially when you start getting good at some things. You realize you have the capability, the capacity to protect yourself and your children and your wife, your significant others. That's what it's all about. But yeah, don't ever be alone. Some of these they're just little things. But here on YouTube, you probably can see other people, ex-military people talking about more specifics, more nitty-gritty, how to do it. I encourage you to do that, but I don't want you to walk around in life in fear. You don't have to be fearful all the time. You can take care of yourself. You can take care of your family. You'll know what to look for, to avoid, so that you stay out of dangerous situations, things like that. Anyhow, that's how I'm going to wrap that up. Be safe. Don't be alone. Don't be a victim. Take care of yourself. We'll see you in the next video.